Good afternoon, everybody here. This is Caleb here with Indiana Storm Chasing Network and ISCN and Michigan Storm Chasers. We're going to take a live look at their upcoming winter storm that'll be impacting the region here tomorrow afternoon and into Thursday morning. Without further ado, let's dive right in here. We're going to start by taking a look at the latest guidance resolution models here. Here's the GFS system here. So what we're going to look at here first. Here you can see the remnants of our southerly system that put down a general 1 to 3 inches of snow this morning and last night across portions of southern Indiana. This system will move on out of here the rest of the afternoon. And here comes our next system. This is going to move in here tomorrow afternoon, primarily after 10 in the morning is when we really expect to see a lot of the impacts to begin here. Here we are at this guidance model has the system here at 1 in the afternoon. I do think it's a little bit behind. I think we'll start seeing it enter the state a little bit sooner than what is presented here. And then here we go mid-afternoon. Mid-afternoon is when we think the bulk of the impacts will really be expected across much of Indiana. Heavy snow, moderate to heavy snow expected for portions of northwest Indiana. There's going to be a really tight gradient, though, between who sees snow and who sees ice and who sees, a few inches of snow. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Here you can see some freezing rain and ice potential stretched all the way down from Terre Haute, all the way to south of Fort Wayne, all the way into northwest Ohio, too, just south of Toledo, Cleveland. You're in it. Anywhere between 1/10 of an inch of ice all the way to 1/4 of inch of ice. So over 2/10 are possible in isolated increments. So we'll talk about that here in a bit as well. Here we are by tomorrow night. Here we are. This is 1 a.m., 1 in the morning is when we start to see this system start to move out of Indiana. Still seeing some snow across southwest lower Michigan, northwest Ohio, getting into some ice snow at this hour. And then here we are by far in the morning, so early Thursday morning before our work commute. The snow is expected to be largely out of the area, impacting portions of southern Ontario. Northern Ohio could still see some travel impacts early tomorrow morning between the 5 and 7 a.m. hours. In terms of snowfall impacts, so let's jump right into that of what we're expecting here. Here's our latest forecast here on snowfall totals of what we're expecting for Indiana. A trace to 1 for areas south of Fort Wayne, north of Terre Haute. Again, there's going to be a really sharp cutoff here between who sees the snow, who sees ice, and who sees several inches of snow. Northwest Indiana is favored to see the highest amounts. Right now, a general total of 3 to 5 inches expected for all of northern and northwest Indiana. We did highlight an area across far northern Indiana and northwest Indiana where few places could see an excess of 6 inches of snow. However, I don't think that'll be very widespread, but a few isolated reports of 6 to 8 inches are possible in the pink area there, but a general 3 to 5 inches is expected there. We do have winter weather advisories in place now as a result of the snowfall that is expected to move into the region tomorrow. These were downgraded from a winter storm watch that were in place earlier today, but they have opted to go with the advisory route versus the winter storm warning. And a lot of that has to do with our snowfall totals. If we had higher confidence in snow totals of a widespread 6-inch snow or greater event, more than likely they would have opted to go the winter storm warning route. But because there's high confidence in a 3 to 5 inch snow versus a 6-inch snow, we have winter weather advisories in place as a result. Now, if something changes to where we do see we're going to get 6 inches of snow or more in a 12-hour period here, we may upgrade to a winter storm warning. But right now, winter weather advisories are in place for a general 3 to 5 inches of snow is expected. Once you go south, though, between Fort Wayne, Kokomo, Terre Haute, some ice is expected with this system, a very similar area to what we saw on Wednesday. Freezing rain is expected here. Some sleet may mix in as well, especially in the purple highlighted area there. Again, there's really sharp contrast between a little bit of warm air aloft and a lot of warm air aloft. That's key in determining precipitation types. If we have a lot of warm air aloft, but a cold air at the ground, we're going to get freezing rain. If we have a little bit of warm air aloft, but a lot of cold air at the ground, we're going to get sleet. So where that sets up is going to be very tricky over the next 24 to 36 hours. Right now, we are expecting a general glaze to 1/10 of an inch of ice anywhere between Terre Haute, Indianapolis, Muncie, and it points northward. Lafayette, you're right on the edge, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some glazing or perhaps some sleet mixing in there as well. Areas Fort Wayne to Kokomo, Marion, Bluffton, Decatur, We expect the highest accretions to be in that area there, anywhere between 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch possible there. Would not be surprised to see a few reports reach in excess of 2/10 of ice. Once you get above 1/4 of an inch, that's when your ice storm criteria starts to be met. But however, in this event, we're not expecting that to be very widespread. Most areas will remain under 2/10 of ice, which is very similar to what we saw on Wednesday. So that is good in terms of widespread impacts. Once you get greater than 1/4 of an inch, then we start talking about power outages, damages to trees, and power lines. But right now, we are looking to remain below 1/4 of an inch for the majority of the freezing rain event, which is good. If that changes, we'll let you know. But again, it's going to be a really narrow corridor of who sees ice. We're going to go rain, ice, sleet, snow. Really, in some cases, in some areas, it may be within a 20 to 30 mile span. So a very tight gradient between who is favorable for snow, sleet, and rain. And again, that all has to do with our temperature profiles that we have here in the atmosphere. A lot of warm air aloft equals more freezing rain. A little bit of warm air aloft equals more sleet. So again, those increments may shift just by a few miles here as we move into tomorrow. But let's time it all out here. Here's our latest timing now on when we expect to see the precipitation move into Indiana. Early tomorrow morning in the white zone between 9 and 10 a.m. is when we expect to see the precipitation start, i.e. rain or snow. And then by mid-afternoon, early afternoon is when we really expect that to be more widespread. Once we get after 12 p.m., widespread snow and freezing rain is expected to be across the majority of northern Indiana, really between Terre Haute, Indianapolis, Muncie, and points northward. That's where I expect to see the worst of the winter impacts, especially from ice. And then we transition into snow as we go northward. As a result, we put together some travel impacts here. We are expecting travel impacts to be quite widespread across northern Indiana. The worst of it will be between 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. tomorrow. Again, high impacts are likely tomorrow evening across northern Indiana. Precipitation amounts, the heaviest bulk of the precipitation is really expected to be between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Precipitation will slowly taper off thereof, but travel impacts will remain even after the ice and snow has left the state. A lot of that is because we are expected to remain below 32 degrees into Thursday and Friday. With that being said, travel impacts will remain as a result. As we move further south into central Indiana, impacts are a little bit less there as we have some more warm air to work with, but really points north of Terre Haute, Indianapolis, and Muncie is where this applies the most, and including Kokomo. Again, yellow impacts for medium impacts are expected between 11 a.m. through about 2 a.m. Thursday is where we have this at here. Again, the bulk of the precipitation is going to come between lunchtime and early evening. But again, because temperatures are below 32 degrees for a lot of these areas, travel impacts will remain an issue as we go into early Thursday morning. So do keep that in mind if you guys are on the roads tomorrow and tomorrow evening. Travel impacts will remain much further even after the precipitation has ended until we get the roads treated. Southern Indiana, you guys are green across the board. We're expecting just rain for you guys, as you guys will be above freezing here through the duration of this event. Let's go back to the models here. I want to show you guys something here. So again, recently we talked about, why we opted for why the National Weather Service went winter weather advisory versus winter storm warning. And that is because high confidence in under 3 inches or under 6 inches of snow is expected across northern Indiana versus 6 inches plus. If we were to achieve 6 inches plus in a single duration event, they likely would have opted for a winter storm warning. But however, a lot of models are in the 3 to 5 inch range and perhaps a few isolated reports of 6 to 7 inches. Here's a probability map. Again, this is a blend of models, so this is the mean, this is the average. So here we are. For greater than 4 inches of snow. Let's go up here by South Bend. South Bend, you're at about a 30% to 40% of greater than 4 inches of snow. Again, so if we were to take this up a notch, let's put it up to 6 inches of snow, just for fun. We're going to see that go down here. And some of that is because of our air temperature and even some dry air that some models are trying to mix in as well, and that would cut down precipitation amounts. But again, this is the mean. This is the average. Could we see 6 inches of snow? across northwest Indiana, yeah, I think it's highly plausible that a few isolated reports of 6 inches for snow are possible. According to this, Plymouth, you're at a 30% chance, 29% there in Plymouth. So again, it really just depends on what our temperatures are doing and how long that dry air stays out of the system. Less dry air, we have more moisture to work with. We'll have more snow to work with as well. So again, lots of moving parts here with this system here. Again, here we are. For those of you just joining us, here we are tomorrow morning. This is around 10 o'clock in the morning here. Snow starting to move into northern Indiana. Got some rain across southwest portions of Indiana, but look at this narrow corridor of ice here from Terre Haute to Decatur, Bluffton, Fort Wayne, all the way stretching just south of Toledo to Cleveland. Watch how this fills in here. This is something we're going to have to watch very closely here tomorrow afternoon. But look how skinny this band is. It's not a wide swath of ice. It's going to be very narrow, and it's going to be a quick transition between rain, freezing rain, sleet, and then all snow. Again, a very narrow corridor, but this corridor could see 1 to 2 tenths of ice before it's all said and done. So a very quick transition here. And this is what we're talking about here. This is a vertical slice in the atmosphere. This is called a sounding, and this is your skew T here. So your red line here are temperatures, and your green line are your moisture. And this is going up in the atmosphere. This is very important for determining what type of precipitation we're going to see. As you can see here, these lines kind of bend to the right a little bit before they pull back to the left. This is because we have some warm air that is introduced aloft that is going to melt the snowflakes into raindrops before hitting the ground. Surface temperature is 32 degrees with a dew point of 28 according to this model here. But as you go up, we're above freezing here. Again, this blue line here is 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. We're right around 33, 34 degrees aloft. So that's going to melt those snowflakes as it hits the ground. And this is why we have some ice. But as you go further north here, across northern Indiana, we're all cold. There's no warm air being introduced aloft. So again, we're 100% snow there. And if we go a little bit further south, we have a lot of warm air. Notice this green and blue line are all the way to the right of the freezing line. So we have all warm air. A lot of warm, little warm, and then no warm. So again, that's the secret for freezing rain, sleet, and all snow. So again, that's kind of what we're looking at here tomorrow. Again, let's go to the comments here to see if you guys have any questions here. We've got Julie in here. Again, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in chat here. We'll go back here again. For those of you that missed it, here's our latest snowfall prediction of what we are expecting in terms of snowfall accumulations tomorrow. The bulk of the accumulations will come tomorrow afternoon, probably between 12 p.m. and about 8 p.m. tomorrow night before the snow starts to taper off a little bit. Widespread 3 to 5 inches across northern Indiana, northwest Indiana, including South Bend, Gary, Rensselaer, Warsaw, Angola. You guys could see 3 to 5 inches of snow. Again, it's going to be a sharp cutoff between who sees a decent amount of snow and who sees very little snow. And a lot of that has to do with our temperatures on where sleet and freezing rain mix in. Where we get that mixing, we're going to get reduced snow totals. So keep that in mind for areas between Fort Wayne, Kokomo, and points southward. We're going to see more mixed precipitation versus all snow. We do have an area in peak highlighted across northern Indiana between Gary and South Bend, maybe Angola. And this is because we feel there's a little bit more confidence up there that there could be a few reports higher than 5 inches. I don't think it's going to be a widespread 6+ inch snow up there. We're not saying that at all. We think there's just higher probability of a few isolated reports greater than 6 inches or 6 inches being achieved. Again, this is why the National Weather Service opted to go winter weather advisory, just because there's higher confidence in the 3 to 5 inch range versus the 5 to 8 inch range. But nonetheless, a few isolated reports of 6+ are possible up there across northwest Indiana. But again, once you go Fort Wayne, Kokomo, and points southward, we're going to be talking about freezing rain, and that's because of warm air that's being introduced aloft. Again, we have to warm up in order to get ice. I know that sounds weird, but that's what has to happen in the atmosphere. As we go up in height, we have to have warm air just above the surface to melt those snowflakes into rain in order to have them refreeze at the surface. So again, highest ice amounts are going to be generally just south of Fort Wayne to Kokomo, and points southeast. Anywhere between 1/10 to 2/10 of ice, perhaps up to 1/4 of an inch of ice is possible, depending on where the heaviest bands of freezing rain set up and how those temperature profiles set up as well. Again, this track may deviate by a couple of miles here between now and tomorrow afternoon. That's possible. But generally, a glaze to 1/10 of an inch outside of those zones, north and south, are likely. Again, in the pink highlighted area there, or the purple, I should say, sleet is expected to mix in as we have less warm air aloft, more cold air. We're going to get more ice pellets versus freezing rain. Again, more cold air allows those raindrops to refreeze before hitting the ground, therefore forming sleet. But as we know, sleet can also cause slippery road conditions, as it's like driving on a bunch of marbles. So do keep that in mind. Again, this is why the National Weather Service has a blanket winter weather advisory stretching all the way down from Fort Wayne, Indiana, Muncie, Indianapolis, all the way down to Terre Haute, again, for these different precipitation types. Whether it's freezing rain, sleet, or snow, travel hazards are expected anywhere you have blue down there. Now, again, the winter weather advisories closer to New Albany, those will be disappearing as we go throughout the night here. Again, this is for our system that's moving through today. It's on its way out right now. Again, those will disappear tonight with the remaining advisories left to the north. Again, we have System 1, System 2. System 1 is on its way out. System 2 will move in tomorrow morning, bringing these travel impacts across the region. Again, here's our timing outlook for when we expect the worst impacts, or when we expect precipitation, rather, to begin across Indiana. Anywhere between 9 and 10 a.m. across western Indiana, southwest Indiana, we'll expect some rain and some snow to begin. Yellow, a little bit later, 10 to 11 a.m. Green, 11 a.m. to noon. And then area shaded in blue, we think precipitation will reach you, especially 12 p.m. and after. Again, the worst of the impacts are expected to be between noon and 8 p.m. Tomorrow afternoon across northern Indiana. Those time blocks are highlighted in red as we are expecting high travel impacts due to freezing rain, sleet, and snow across northern Indiana. And again, these impacts will be prolonged well after the precipitation has ended, and a lot of that has to do with because we are going to remain below freezing. We're not going to warm up after this system. We're going to get cold. We're going to get colder. Again, lows tomorrow night or Thursday night could be in the single digits across northern Indiana. Wind chills could be as low as -10, -11 Thursday night into Friday morning. So we're not going to warm up. We're going to stay cold. And for that reason, we have travel impacts all the way into your Thursday morning commute across northern Indiana. And a lot of that has to do with the ice and snow, especially on untreated roadways. And as temperatures get below a certain point, especially below 15 degrees, road salt becomes less effective. So that's another variable to keep in mind here, are the cold temperatures coming Thursday night into Friday morning. That'll have an impact on your road temperatures and how the effective road salt becomes. Again, precipitation times here, though. The worst of it will be between 12 and 8 p.m. Those blocks are highlighted in red with a yellow after that as the snow slowly tapers off tomorrow night. As we move into central Indiana, this is really for points Kokomo, Indianapolis, Muncie, and points north, including Lafayette. We're expecting medium travel impacts anywhere between noon, really 11 a.m., all the way through 2 a.m. Again, a little bit less here as they're expecting temperatures to warm up as the low moves north. So that warm air will advect a little bit northward, shutting off the freezing rain for some areas while having it remain for others, especially between Muncie and Terre Haute and points northward. Precipitation impacts, the worst of it really between 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. before it starts to move out of the state. Southern Indiana, as a reminder, you guys are just getting rain. You guys dodged a bullet on this one. I know the snow down there right now is exiting the region, but you guys will improve as we go throughout the night into tomorrow. Temperatures will warm up above freezing. The snow that you got today will melt tomorrow. So if you're hoping to make a snowman tomorrow, sorry, it's probably not going to happen. You guys are going to have all rain down there tomorrow into tomorrow afternoon. With that being said here, we'll go back to the questions here, back to the comments here to see if we have anything in here. Again, we have Ohio's news and weather in here. Great to see you guys. We got Jesse in here. Will Demote get hit? What county is Demote in? You're going to have to remind me there on that one. If you could put that in there, I'll get that answered for you. In the meantime, we're going to go back here. Let me switch something here. Here we go. We're going to go back here to the models here again. For those of you just joining us here who want to see this timed out, here we are tomorrow morning. Okay, this is around 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. We have rain moving into southern Indiana. A few light snow showers across northern Indiana, especially Lafayette and points northward. We could have some light snow showers tomorrow morning. Here we go tomorrow afternoon. This is mid-afternoon, around 3 o'clock. we're going to see some heavy snow start to move into portions of northern Indiana. Again, we have a narrow corridor of ice here. But the biggest thing with this ice is it's coming early afternoon is when it's going to start. So I know a lot of you guys have kids in school. So the big question is, will schools dismiss early tomorrow? That's going to be a question up to your school board and something that you guys need to pay attention to, especially those of you north of Indianapolis, as this event is going to be tomorrow afternoon start time. And then, whether you guys have school on Thursday will also be up to your school board and your road conditions. But again, something to keep in mind for early dismissal possibilities, especially north of Indianapolis. You guys will need to keep in touch with your school district and their protocols on what they do tomorrow afternoon. I would not be surprised to see some early dismissals tomorrow afternoon, definitely ahead of the snow and the ice especially. So do keep that in mind if you guys do have kids in school up there as well. Again, a very narrow corridor of ice, really between Terre Haute, Kokomo, Muncie, Bluffton, Decatur, Fort Wayne, stretching all the way to just south of Toledo. Cleveland, you're in it. Anywhere between 1/10 of an inch of ice, even a few reports of up to 1/4 of an inch cannot be ruled out. Again, it's not a very wide area, a very narrow area, but wherever we can get those conditions where we have just the right amount of warm air aloft, we have a lot of moisture to work with. So I wouldn't be surprised to see up to 1/4 of an inch of ice in some isolated areas. Again, power outages not looking likely as long as we remain below 1/4 of an inch. Once we start exceeding 1/4 of an inch of ice, that's when we start need to talking about, tree damage, power lines being weighed down. That's when we start getting into the nasty stuff, is once we exceed 1/4 of an inch. Right now, luckily, most of us will remain under 2/10 of ice or up to 2/10 of ice. So, all right. So Jasper County. Yeah, Jasper County, you guys are off the hook. I believe you guys are in southern Indiana. Just rain for you guys right now. But you don't have to go very far north before you start to see some freezing rain and snow. So do keep that in mind as we go throughout the day tomorrow. Frankfurt, yeah, you guys could get in on some freezing rain tomorrow for sure. You guys are in the pink zone there. I'll pull my map back up here for you guys to see that here. Again, Frankfurt, yeah, you guys could see anywhere between a glaze to 1/10 of an inch of ice, maybe a little more. You guys are right on the edge between the snow and the ice. Again, there's still time for brief wobbles here within this system, of upwards of, 10 miles or so. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but a 10-mile shift could be a half county or so, or perhaps more. So that is a big difference in terms of who sees snow, who sees rain, and who sees ice. Again, when you have a really sharp gradient like this between a little bit of snow, a lot of snow, and a little bit of ice and a lot of ice, those 10-mile shifts make a big difference, especially with temperature profiles in the atmosphere. So again, these will be things we'll have to keep an eye on as we move throughout the day tomorrow. I was thinking of the town of Jasper. Okay. Yeah, you guys are going to see some snow, probably 3 to 5 inches up there for you guys. So is expected for you guys. That is my fault on that. Getting a little snow in Bedford, Indiana right now. Yeah, you guys are going to be getting some snow down there. Again, that's System 1. That is going to be on its way out. Tomorrow, Bedford is going to be expected to see all rain tomorrow down there across southern Indiana, as our next system moves in. But something to watch here. I will mention this briefly here. Since I have you guys in here, a very active pattern is expected here, and we are watching the potential for another system moving in here by the weekend. Again, a very similar setup too, where we have a snow line, an ice line, and a rain line as well. So again, too early for details on this system here, but again, it's another system, very similar setup to where we're going to have a split system where we're going to have a warm sector and a cold sector, splitting parts of Indiana, Ohio, where some people are going to see snow, some people are going to see wintry mix, and some people are going to see all rain. Again, this is the type of setups that we have here, and we have had here over the past couple of weeks. Again, we've really been in the battle zone here between who sees what, and that trend is going to continue here as we move throughout the rest of the month of February as well. So, Cassandra says, I'm hoping it sifts down a bit. I want some snow, not the ice. Yeah, I know it. Unfortunately, a lot of people that are getting ice tomorrow, had ice Wednesday. It's really not that much of a difference in terms of track between Wednesday's system in tomorrow's system in terms of who's seeing ice. It really is over the same areas, or very similar. Something tomorrow, though, thunderstorms are not expected, so I don't expect any thunder ice tomorrow like we've seen over the past couple of events. If that changes, I'll let you know. But right now, we're not expecting lightning tomorrow with this one. But yeah, I know a lot of people are getting tired of the ice here in this zone. We've really been just unfortunate to have it go over the same area again and again and again. But unfortunately, we're going to get another round of it. So with that being said here, guys, yeah, we can return to the timing here. Shelton, absolutely. Let me get that pulled up here for you. Again, tomorrow morning is when we expect the bulk of this precipitation to start, anywhere between 9 and 10 a.m. in the morning. Across portions of southwest Indiana, which will be rain. Once you go north of Terre Haute, some light snow may move in early tomorrow morning. Again, nothing too heavy at this time in the morning, but that'll change as we move into the afternoon. Zones in yellow, about an hour later, between 10 and 11 a.m. is when we're expecting the bulk of the precipitation to start to move in, and deteriorating conditions as well. Again, precipitation is going to pick up in intensity as we move into the early portions of the afternoon. Areas in green, 11 to 12 p.m. there. So right around lunchtime there, it'll be across a good majority of Indiana, moving into far northeast Indiana afternoon. So again, if you have plans for lunch tomorrow, do keep this with a grain of salt, as times could change. It could arrive earlier than expected, as well as it could expect to come later. So again, these are rough estimates here, but we have pretty good confidence in that. Especially once you get after 1 p.m., conditions are going to be deteriorating rapidly across northern Indiana, with freezing rain, snow, and sleet. Again, here's our travel impacts that we're expecting here across northern Indiana. Again, we have high impacts between 11 a.m. and midnight Thursday night. And again, a lot of this has to do with the bulk of precipitation coming through. A lot of the precipitation will start to move out by between 9 and 10 p.m. However, when you have falling temperatures, just after a heavy snow event, ice event, it takes a long time for crews to really treat the roadways. So those impacts are going to extend into your Thursday morning commute across northern Indiana, especially on untreated roadways and rural roads. Roads that don't always get treated. They throw some sand down, but that's about it. Those roads are expected to be the worst Thursday morning. Another thing to keep in mind, too, as well, especially across northern Indiana, temperatures Thursday night into Friday morning are expected to be quite cold. Temperatures could be in the single digits across northern Indiana, with wind chills exceeding 10 below at times. With that said, why is that important? Is because once you get below 15 degrees Fahrenheit, you lose the effectiveness of road salt. Road salt creates a boundary layer between the pavement and the snow by reducing the water's freezing point. However, salt water does still freeze, and once you get below 15 degrees, the freezing point starts to overcome the melting point, and that's when we have issues. And so that's another reason why we have travel impacts extending into your evening or your Thursday morning commute, is because of those cold temperatures, and roadways may still have some slick spots into early Thursday morning. Again, central Indiana, still some travel impacts expected for you, especially between Terre Haute, Indianapolis, and points northward, is where we expect the bulk of the impacts to be. Again, medium travel impacts anywhere between noon and 2 a.m. Thursday morning. We are expecting your Thursday morning commute to be okay across central Indiana. A lot of that is because as the low pressure system pulls northward, it's going to advect some warmer air into central Indiana as well, warming above freezing for some. So that'll help improve roadways a little bit, especially Terre Haute, Indianapolis, and points southward. But once you go north of Indianapolis, we may have to extend the travel impacts to include your morning commute, depending on how this system tracks with temperatures as we go into tomorrow morning. So I would treat tomorrow morning with caution on your way to work, and watch out for some patchy black ice, just because of how cold our temperatures are going to get here tonight. That'll really promote black ice across the region. Precipitation, though, really the worst of it is going to be between 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. tomorrow, before that really starts to move out of the state here. We have those in yellow there. The worst of it will be across northern Indiana, northwest Indiana, northern Indiana is where we expect the worst to be. Southern Indiana, you guys are green across the board this time. All rain for you guys is expected down there. As warmer air is not going to allow any winter precip south of Indianapolis. So good news for you guys. You guys should be okay as we go throughout the day tomorrow and into Thursday. Again, here's a live look at our winter weather advisories that are in place right now as a result of the anticipated winter weather that'll be moving into the state. The winter weather advisory stretching from Terre Haute, Indianapolis, Muncie, and points northward. That's for tomorrow's system, System 2. The winter weather advisories across southeast Indiana. That's for System 1. That came in last night, and it's wrapping up as we speak right now. Put a general 1 to 3 inches of snow on the ground between Evansville, Jasper, New Albany. You guys saw a general 1 to 3 inches of snow here today. That'll be wrapping up here this evening. And you guys will have some warming temperatures overnight with some rain moving in tomorrow. So again, all that snow will melt that you got today as you warm into tomorrow. What's going on for good old Wells County? Sorry if you already saw. That's okay. Yeah, Wells County, you guys are getting freezing rain again tomorrow. Again, I'll pull that up here. Wells County, anywhere between 1/10 of an inch of ice all the way up to 2/10 of an inch of ice. And I can't rule out an isolated report up to 1/4 of an inch of ice. That's because good old Wells County, as well as Adams County, parts of Huntington, Grant, Blackford, all those counties there are right in the sweet spot and have been really for the past few winter events here. Just happenstance. There's no really rhyme or reason to it other than it's just been Mother Nature's sweet spot for ice here recently. Another similar setup to what we had on Wednesday in terms of amounts and travel expectations, anywhere between 1/10 of an inch to 2/10 of an inch of ice. You know, that's enough to coat trees, power lines, and roadways and really make for hazardous travel conditions. And again, that's why a winter weather advisory is in place across the region to account for these travel conditions. You know, once we get above 1/4 of an inch of ice is when we really expect to start to see some damages as a result of the ice. Here's a look at our ice rating here in impacts of what we expect. We'll be in the yellow zone tomorrow for a good portion of the freezing rain zone, stretching from Terre Haute, Kokomo, Muncie, and Fort Wayne and areas south. Anywhere between a glaze to 1/4 of an inch of ice. You know, some isolated tree damage is possible, but not widespread. A few smaller limbs may fall, especially on pine trees and more sensitive trees, more fragile trees that are more subjective to breaking. We'll have some small limbs down, but in terms of, you know, widespread tree damage, power line damage, we're not expecting that at all tomorrow. And really, I'm not expecting any power outages. A few may be possible, but not widespread tomorrow. Once we get into ice storm category, and that's 1/4 of an inch or greater, and then we start upping our wording in terms of impacts. That's when we start to see impacts becoming more widespread and more severe. Especially once you get to the 1/2 an inch or greater, that's when you start seeing extensive tree damage, tree limbs going down on power lines, you know, power lines being weighed down, snapping from the poles. You really start to see that once you get a 1/2 inch and greater. And once you get down to an inch of ice or greater, that's when damage becomes really just widespread and catastrophic. Roads are impassable. You know, trees are bent over, falling down from the weight of the ice. It's just really bad. I think we had a last ice storm here, like 2008 or somewhere in there. Think of that. That was a 1/2 an inch plus, close to an inch of ice. I mean, that's just widespread, impassable. The good news is we're not expecting that at all tomorrow. So again, we'll go back here and we'll time this out one more time for you here before we hop out of here. Here's a live look at the forecast model tomorrow. Again, this is the European model. We looked at the GFS here earlier. This is the European model. Again, another global model. We look at a variety of forecast models to really help paint the picture. We can't just make a forecast off of one model. You know, it really takes more data input to really get the mean to allow you to forecast properly. You really just have to obtain more data. And here we go for the European model. Again, very similar to the GFS. Again, tomorrow morning, here we are, 9-10 o'clock in the morning. Some light snow showers are moving into portions of northwest Indiana. Got some rain moving into southwest Indiana, but watch this really small narrowed corridor of ice stretching from Terre Haute, Wells County, Adams County, Allen, all the way up to Cleveland, Ohio. This will progress here tomorrow afternoon. Some heavy to moderate snowfall rates expected across northwest Indiana. Upwards of 1.5 inches an hour possible. This will reduce visibilities to less than 2 miles at some times. So do keep that in mind as well. And then as we move throughout tomorrow afternoon, here we are by late afternoon, early evening. Snow is starting to wrap up here. But as you notice here in this model, we're starting to see some more scattered rain and snow. Some of the models here, especially this afternoon, have trying to introduce some dry air into the system. If we see some dry air, if we see this scenario play out, that could also cut back on snow totals and really reduce the risk of 6 inches snow and make that very, very low. This is why we have opted for 3 to 5 inches of snow across northwest Indiana to account for some dry air that may be trying to come in as well. Again, here we are tomorrow night. Here's right around midnight. Midnight tomorrow night, the bulk of the precipitation is gone. Still could have some freezing rain or freezing drizzle falling on the backside of the system at midnight, so do keep that in mind. We have some light snow showers finishing up here across southern Michigan, southeast Michigan, especially Monroe County, Detroit area. Could have some light snow showers tomorrow night, and even a few lake effect snow showers are possible into the day Thursday afternoon. So we could have some lake effect snow showers into the day Thursday and into Friday coming off of Lake Michigan. This could add some light snow accumulations, 1 to 2 inches perhaps, especially across northwest Indiana. Lake Porter counties, Elkhart counties could get in on that as well. So something to keep in mind as we go throughout the day Thursday, but I don't think lake effect snow will be a big issue across the board. So with that being said here, guys, I don't really see a whole lot of other questions here. Again, we went over precipitation types, snowfall amounts here. I'll actually show snowfall amounts here one more time here. I think I talked about the ice more than I did the snow. Again, a really tight gradient here, and a lot of that has to do with our temperature profiles in the atmosphere. The atmosphere is going to go really quick from a lot of warm to a little bit of warm to no warm air. And that really just means we're going to go from rain, sleet, freezing rain to all snow in a very, very short distance. In some instances, maybe less than 20 miles. It's not going to be a very gradual cutoff. It's going to be very sharp, very defined. So with that being said, we're going to have some steep gradients in terms of snowfall. A few miles down the road may get an inch less than you, depending on where you are. And that's entirely plausible. Areas south of Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne, we have you in the 1 to 3 zone right now. That could change depending on how much sleet or freezing rain mixes in. That could go up or down either way. You guys are right on the edge of the rain snow line there. Areas south of Fort Wayne, less for you guys, a trace to 1 inch, and a lot of that has to do with more freezing rain, more warm air aloft for you guys, and therefore reducing snow totals. As we go further northwest, Warsaw, Rensselaer, Lafayette, and points northward, 2 to 4, 3 to 5 inches. And 3 to 5 inches is really what's to be expected across the entirety of northern Indiana, stretching from Angola, Gary, Rensselaer. We do have an area highlighted in pink, and that is because there is the possibility of a few reports greater than 5 inches of snow. 6, 7, 8 inches of snow is possible. However, it's not widespread. A few isolated reports depending on where those heavier bands set up. We do feel there is the confidence for a 6 inch plus report, but not very widespread. Widespread 3 to 5 inches is expected across northern Indiana, with a few isolated reports of 6 inches or more. Definitely cannot be ruled out. So with that being said here, guys, I'll probably hop out of here. We'll continue to update everything on the page here as we go throughout the evening and into this event here. We'll have updates for you. I believe winter weather advisories are posted on the page as well if you guys are curious on where those are at. So with that being said here, we'll probably hop out of here, and we will see you guys later.